Hi everyone, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin zoomed out today to try and get some perspective on where the price action is at the moment or where it could be going. Now, there's a time and a place to be looking at the 15-minute chart, there's a time and a place to be looking at the 4-hour chart, but right now, today, we need to be zooming out to Bitcoin daily at the very least to have a sense of where the price action may stop and bounce. So the price action has now retraced all the way back down to around 74k, which is where the price action launched off from before it put in all new highs of around 125k from April to October, and now we have retraced all the way back down from the October highs back down to 74k. Now, the problem Bitcoin has been having over the last few weeks is there hasn't been a clearly defined support area for the bulls to grab onto. There's been a lot of ambiguity with local price action and historical price action as to where these levels are, meaning the bulls have been a bit spread out, where the bears have had very clearly defined resistance levels to trade off. We've got the weekly 50 SMA up here, we've got the 3-day 200 MA here, etc., etc. So the bears have had an advantage in terms of the TA and in terms of positioning. Now, for the first time since, well, maybe November 2025, we have a very clearly defined support level for the bulls to grab onto, for long traders to grab onto. Now, this range stretches from 74k all the way down to 69k. And you can see here how the resistance levels previously back in the beginning of the bull run in March 2024, or rather when it started to really blast off and put in new highs, you can see this whole range has been previously used as resistance, meaning we have to, and if we just draw a little line there actually, there we go. You can see there's this whole range has been occupied by resistance. Now, we could presume then on the flip side that this whole range is going to be full of support, and therefore we have to look at the market as it is in the moment, right? We have to look at where it could potentially come down lower in the short term before a bounce, but the likelihood now of a bounce from these levels is quite high, which is why we've started to have a little bit of a reversal. There is also a double bottom on the RSI, a subtle double bottom, but we also have to presume that the price action may just sit pretty for a few days, but then scoop down the liquidity up here before coming up. So we don't want to be jumping in right now on the back of this kind of falling knife. We want to see how the price action settles, but ultimately you could look to take a position at 74k, but it's only going to be a small portion of your intended position because you have to presume we're coming back down to 69k until we see something different. So 74k is the first line in the sand where a potential bounce point could occur. Now, we are seeing a little bounce right now, but ultimately we want to be looking at this whole area as a point of accumulation with, say, 10% of our intended position at 74k, and then maybe we can add at 72k a little bit more. So by the time we get down to 69k, we maybe got half of our position filled, and then if we do get the confirmation that we're coming out of this on back of a reversal pattern, we can then add more of our position once we get bullish confirmation. So that's not a bad play to scale in to try and catch a little V-shaped bounce sort of thing here out of support, but this is very significant range. And the most important thing to recognize is that previous bear markets typically have retraced to the all-time highs from the bull market which preceded it. So the all-time high from 2021, the bull run before this one, was 69k. The cycle top in 2017 was about 19k, and the bear cycle which followed that bottomed out just around that area of 19k. Now, if Bitcoin follows suit, then we could have, there is an argument for a reversal here from these levels. Now, I don't think that's going to be the end of the bear market here, but that's the premise, of course. But there is also an argument that institutional adoption is, of course, going to mean that Bitcoin has a shorter, sharper bear market as opposed to a very deep retrace back down to, say, 30k or something like that. But this is the most significant area the bulls have had to play off in a good few weeks, and there's a good chance we're going to have a bounce from here, at the very least, back up the previous resistance between 84 and 86k. But that's Bitcoin.